I want to bring in Thomas Glasgow. He is a Chicago criminal defense attorney and has been a prosecutor in Cook County in the past. Thomas, what do you make of
Good
this?
morning.
How
Good afternoon.
decent is the evidence that is out there regarding Governor Blagojevich?
You know, the evidence here is pretty damning. You've got the defendant himself on tape admitting several of the allegations that the U.S. attorney is making. Evidence, when it comes in from the defendant himself, of course, is probably the most damning evidence that you're going to have. Any other evidence you can cast light on, you can question, but when you've got your own client saying the words that are alleged to have been said by the governor, it is particularly damning against your client.
And
this is an
Thomas,
incredibly
the brazenness with which he did it, apparently some of the tapes that they have were recorded after he knew he was being wiretapped. So the brazenness indicates that the corruption went far beyond perhaps even what's in this indictment.
It's absolutely astounding that a sitting governor, knowing that he was the target of investigation and had been speculated in the papers for years, would continue along these processes if he did in fact do so. The allegations that he continued the acts that he was being investigated for is absolutely stunning. It is unfathomable that someone would continue to do the same things that he was being accused of before. And the governor before him had been accused of, Governor Ryan, when he was sent to jail on pretty much the same charges.
They can't help themselves. Bill Spain, what is the Tribune's role in all of this? The Chicago Tribune broke much of this story just at a point where the actual company filing for bankruptcy yesterday, and were there some threats toward the Tribune if they went with this story?
Well, no, there weren't any threats about that story particularly. It was the editorial writers who were calling for Blagojevich's impeachment, that apparently he was telling the Tribune company that they weren't going to get state help for Wrigley Field if they didn't play ball and fire some of these people.
Do we know, by the way,
role.
which editors were targeted for being fired by Blagojevich?
They were
Particularly
editorial
John
writers, and we don't seem to know yet. But
Go ahead, Thomas.
Apparently we do. I didn't know yet, but I could make a pretty good guess.
I apologize. In the release that came out this morning during the course of the conversations with the United States Attorney in his press conference, John McCormick was one of the particular editors that was targeted as being biased and unfair towards the governor's office. This was the person who, every time they came up on layoffs, they would particularly ask whether or not the particular reporter would be fired or would be let go. And he wanted a change in the editorial board because of the number of bad commentaries that have been made through the course of the Chicago Tribune about him over the course of the years. They put out the percentage points of what his approval rating was here in the state of Illinois, and I believe it was 13%, and this was last month.
Now what happens, Bill Spain? He gets possibly pushed out. We're waiting for news on that. I mean, is he going to resign? Here he is on camera. But then the question becomes, what is the process to get a new governor in place? And then what is the process to fill that Senate seat?
Well, he's still the sitting governor.
Go ahead, Bill.
If he resigns or if he's impeached and thrown out, the lieutenant governor would then take the seat. And he still has the power to make that Senate appointment, although why anybody would want it, considering how tainted it would be at this point. I mean, can you imagine walking around Capitol Hill, hey, how much did you pay? Basically, which is what would happen. And then presumably we're going to wait, and the next governor is going to get to appoint that senator. But he's going to need the money. I mean, he's going to need the money to pay his lawyers in the meantime.
Well, Thomas, talking about money, we are about to embark on the biggest period of federal spending ever. We've already embarked on it at the end of the Bush administration, but Obama's going to be involved in about $1 trillion worth of public spending projects. My question, Thomas, now in particular, is it a time when we have to scrutinize these contracts like we never have before? Because, you know, some of these contracts, there may be a bribe attached to some of them.
Well, public watchdog groups generally do a very good job of keeping an eye on who's who with regard to these. Do we have to scrutinize these contracts? Yes, I would think that there would be an oversight, and you would want to take a look at these contracts, just as we have attempted to do so in the state of Illinois. the government, the federal government, has done an excellent job in staying on top of these things with regard to whether or not they were all on the up and up. We've had a trucking scandal here in Chicago. We've had, the paper play issue. We had the money that Blagojevich was trying to give to Children's Hospital, which he was trying to get back in exchange for a $50,000 contribution. Are these things that you want to look into? Absolutely. The public has a need and a desire to make sure that its funds are spent in the right way. But the overwhelming number of public officials that you see do truly care about the public good. It just happens that we had three governors prior to Governor Blagojevich who were sent to jail for, unfortunately, not doing that. And now Governor Blagojevich is accused of the same thing.
Bill, as we finish up, what needs to be done to clear out the dirt and the scum from Chicago and Illinois politics?
There's a very, very hard rain is going to have to come to wash these streets clean of the scum. I mean, there's no question about it. It's going to keep going. It's always been here. It's basically how you do business here. I mean, it's interesting to note that in state construction projects and city construction projects here, as compared to some other places I've lived, our crooked contractors and crooked politicians actually seem to get these things done on time, and they don't fall down, unlike the cases, say, in Boston.
It's a hard rain that's going to fall in Chicago. Thank you.
I mean, our corruption works for what that's worth.
Well, yeah, if you're going to have corruption, at least it should be efficient corruption. Bill Spain, Thomas Glasgow, thank you both, gentlemen. Good stuff. Appreciate it.
Thank you.